Hey, what's going on everybody? Jared here. Now, today I saw this video on Twitter of GGYGO posted about the Maliss debate and saying that Maliss is fine. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I disagree. I don't think Maliss is fine. And I want to kind of just react to his video and kind of break down some of the arguments and then just kind of talk about it as I go. Before I actually get into this, I just want to say, obviously, this is post-YCS Orlando. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I have COVID right now, so I probably sound terrible. But yeah, this is just something I hear a lot, and I just wanted to react to it. And please don't send any, this is not like an attack. This is no hate or anything. This is just something of, I have an opinion, he has an opinion. It's okay to disagree about opinions because, obviously, objectively, I'm the right one, right? But, yeah, if you enjoy, please subscribe. And again, just no hate or anything like that. So let's go ahead and just kind of react to this a little bit.
How's it going, YouTube? Coming to you today with another video. And today, guys, the brain news is going to be the Maliss debate and the end of the argument. Hopefully.
I'm gonna actually put this on.
This is a video that I wanted to make because I keep seeing posts about it, and I was like, man, I really should just put my 2 cents on this because I feel like this is kind of a ridiculous argument. But I'm gonna tell you how I feel about this, and then I guess we'll just go from there and debate in the comment section. If you haven't already checked my sponsors over on RW, Cloud, Gem, Arla, Imperium, Dragon Shield, or Grimoire, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the description. And then also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. I appreciate it so much, and we're on our way to 30,000. It's gonna happen before you know it, and it's gonna be very exciting. And let's hop right into our first slide. So I did make a poll on my YouTube community tab. It has 1,100 votes, and the majority said that Maliss is not unfair.
This is a big
but
no.
there is
I think that you find Maliss to be unfair at a very top level of competitive play. So I'm not actually surprised to see something like this.
Horrible to play against. This is something that I never want to see. If I play against it, it feels like they either get blown out by Lancia or it's a non-game for me.
Kind of it all involves hand traps. That's really the reason why. It's nothing to do with the deck ceiling or anything. But I'll probably get into that later. But it's mostly just about interactions, and I'll explain.
And
I'm sure
this is something for me where I'm like, this deck feels fine because in the grand scheme of things, Ryziel is just overbearingly the. Okay,
yeah, obviously, two things can be true at once, right? Ryziel can be a problem, and Maliss can also be a problem. Maliss is a problem in a different way though than Ryziel. When people complain about Maliss, they don't complain about Maliss in the regard of representation of a format. Also the consistency issues with Maliss right now are really the main that, and the side deck patterns of Maliss are the side against Maliss is the issue. Obviously Lancia, Fuaros, and etc. etc. Also this kind of misrepresented on this part because this Mitsurugi section should also be over here, so it should be this should be Ryziel as opposed to just this, but it's besides the point. Ryziel is just hyper consistent, so obviously in a 12-round event plus top cut, Ryziel is going to be more represented in that pie chart than Maliss would, but that doesn't stop the fact that Maliss is frustrating for
best deck in the format,
a lot of
right?
reasons.
This is so not even close to being I think it was
it's a very black and white way to look at a pie chart and just say, oh, because this is more represented, that means this isn't a problem. It's no, they're problems for different reasons.
Something with Maliss, that's a huge differential, right? Ryziel alongside Mitsurugi, which got second, but people need a little bit more time with that deck. But Mitsurugi is the only deck right now that I feel is just unfair, right? And they put Mitsurugi over here, which is kind of silly because it just belongs.
I thought Mitsurugi was pretty unfair, and then I piloted it, and then it's kind of... How can I word Mitsurugi? It's when it resolves, it's insane. But, there's a lot of ways to, not let it resolve. And if, it's kind of one of those if they have it decks, which... in Yu-Gi-Oh's past history has never been that good, right? Things, Mermail, Dark World, those explosive type decks are not fun and not interactive. They're just broken when they go off. It kind of reminds me of that. You can just kind of flood them out with something like Droll and Lockbird or a smart hand trap, and it'll probably just do enough. It kind of feels like something like that, but just a little lower to the ground as a comparison to Mermail or Dark World, if that makes sense.
Belongs with this, right? But look at how much of the pie chart, including the Mitsu, is just Ryziel. And you're telling me so many people complain about this? There's no way. Telling me so many people complain about this? There's no way. Because realistic...
Yeah, like I said, you can complain about a smaller piece of the pie chart and still say this, both things are a problem, right? I think that's a very obvious thing.
Down and then over here, bro. It's so much Ryziel. And
again, Mitsu, honestly, this is just a consistency thing. That's the main thing to me. Whoopsie.
They go off, and you're playing against Mitsu, it feels horrible if you don't have a hand trap or if you don't droll the deck. When you're playing against Maliss, there are so many ways to...
That's the same thing with Malice, though. It's like, if you don't have Lancia, it just feels awful. Like, it just feels terrible, no matter what you have. Like, even if you have a Charmy, like, yeah, they're not going to do, like, the full combo, but they're still going to end on a couple things, plus, like, a massive amount of non-engine, more than likely. And realistically, they can probably maneuver their plays around, a lot of the time at least, or I feel like they can, where they can get to, like, Chessy Cat and even draw 2 cards, and that's, like, still just fine, right? Like, that's like, drawing 2 cards... you can probably trade for like a 1-for-1. Maybe give them like 1 card and you get like so much non-engine, extra non-engine. Like it just seems worth it, like plus trap.
Counter what they're doing, and there's also just like a lot of different things to consider whenever you're going up against a board with the deck itself. And there's like different rulings and whatnot that really work in your favor because like. For example, we already know that if a Cryptor is negated and then you summon a monster to the Cryptor arrow, that the Cryptor will no longer be negated.
Right.
But did you know that if they use the Cryptor and then you remove the monster that the Cryptor is pointing to, if the Cryptor is already negated, the Cryptor will resolve without effect because it will go back to being...
Yeah, it's not there anymore. That makes sense. But the problem... the problem doesn't... Like, that doesn't even help you, because, like, what are you doing that's going to remove a monster this format? The only thing you could have is, like, what, Detonator? Like, specifically Detonator on the field, or, like, a Metaltronus chaining to banish something that's not the Cryptor? Like, I don't know. I feel like this is, like... This, like, how often is this going to come up? Like, 100 and, like, 1 in 100 games.
Shout out to Super Insane for that one. He told me that at the YCS. But that is another ruling.
I mean, it's good to know. Like, obviously, like, it's good to know that ruling, but, like, that's not a reason why this deck isn't unfair.
Play very well in your favor. You can also just hold Ash for your turn and Ash MTP.
Yeah, so, like, this is, like... I don't want to say this is, like... This is a good thing. Like, it's fine. Like, yes, you can hold, you hold Ash for your turn. Like, realistically, it's actually probably better to hold Ash for your own turn. And Ash either MTP or the White Binder coming back. Those are, like, the 2... quote-unquote best Ash targets in my opinion. But it's like, it sucks when they can just like move around like how many cards and they're just fine. Like they get the play for so long. You can have like upwards of 2 to 3 hand traps and it just doesn't matter because they went set 1 normal Dormouse and you just can't interact with it. Like there's nothing to interact with. They're going to go full combo and you can't do anything until it gets until it gets back to you. Like that's like insane to me. I don't think that's right. Like, and I'll again, he's probably going to compare it to Ryziel later, but I'll explain why it's different for Ryziel specifically. Currently, I'm not going to go past Alliance Insight because Alliance Insight changes a lot, so I'm not even going to mention that. Both these decks get way better past Alliance Insight, but the main thing is that like this is like currently playing through hand traps like butter, and this is like if I hand trap a Ryziel deck, unless they hard open the thing I'm stopping them getting to, like they're not going to have it. Like there's no getting back into it or anything like that. So it's just like something to keep in mind. Whereas Malice, if I hand trap them, it feels like Snake Eye because they're just going to do the same thing if I didn't hand trap them half the time, and that's where like the issue lies, and that's what people complain about.
I feel like people really do overreact when it comes to Malice because like the deck has so many hard fought counters, and also the deck can brick, and it plays like a lot of Bystials and whatnot. So if you play against a deck where like Bystials aren't that great, then obviously you're gonna be in an uphill battle. Yes, you have Shifter, and I think if Shifter is gone, then you have a lot better time against this deck regardless.
Shifter's not the issue. Shifter's arguably awful this format. I think playing Shifter is like side deck at the best. You're never maining Shifter in my opinion. The only thing Shifter is like good against is like Fiendsmith, and even then, like Fiendsmith's an engine. That's not even part of like the main deck that you're playing against. So like, are you really gonna main deck Shifter or like even side Shifter at that point? Because like at that point, you would much rather have like Ultimate Slayer, Metaltronus versus the Ryziel deck than like Shifter in general. I mean, like yeah, you can turn off X and that stops that. Plus that, so like Shifter against Ryziel Fiendsmith specifically is probably fine. But I know Mitsurugi or Ryziel can just play through like it's no problem. And I know that Pure Ryziel can like you can play Shifter in Pure Ryziel too, which is like so much non-engine and it's fine. So like there's just no way you're playing Shifter. I actually think this is probably one of the most fairest Shifter formats that we've had in quite some time.
Because you don't have to worry about that. But if I'm thinking about like an unfair deck, right? If you play against Water and you lost die roll, it's wraps. You better hope you open roll or they bricked, right? So that's one thing for me where I'm like, man, this deck is like, unfair.
This is like a tried and true Yu-Gi-Oh thing though. Like there's a million decks in Yu-Gi-Oh that are like insane combo piles, and if you just have it, you have it, or if you don't, you don't. That's not like an argument for Malice. That's not even the argument for Malice. Like yes, Water, Plant, Dark World, like etc. etc. Like these decks exist. They're bad because they can't go through all these rounds and avoid these floodgates. That's not the reason why Malice is broken.
Just you're getting hand looped, especially if they open like Minstrel Dragoon. You know it's over,
it's not
right?
fun.
Like that's just a really
it's
bad
not fun.
situation.
It's fun for
to
the
be in.
playing,
let alone
the deck.
10 opening up
like
Hydra
playing
and
Dark
like
Lord, playing
5 breaker
Mermail.
spells, right?
It's
that's
fun.
also
but...
fairly unfair in my eyes. Is this not more broken than what Malice can do? Because even if you negate something like Dweller,
Wait,
it's
did
a
he say
soft one's
something
return.
there?
Unfair in my eyes. Is this looped? Especially if they open like Minstrel Dragoon, you know it's over, right? Like that's just a really bad situation to be in. Let alone Tenpai opening up Hydra and like 5 breaker spells, right? That's also fairly unfair in my eyes.
I mean, yeah,
is this not more
Tenpai.
broken than what Malice can do? Because even if you negate something like Dweller, it's a soft once return. If you clear it off your board, then trigger Eclipse Twins and bring it back and use it again, that's kind of toxic. Being able to put up a board that's like...
But Eclipse Twins is counterable. This is the problem again. Like, it's counterable to stuff that's already good in the format, where Malice is not. That's the issue. I think that's the underlying issue. That's what it comes down to. Is Malice is not counterable from the stuff that's good in the rest of the format. It's so frustrating. Whereas, like, Twins, specifically Twins, is just completely counterable on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Detonator.
Like, everyone's playing, like, a million Bestials, right? Why are you playing a million Bestials? Because it's good against Fiendsmith. It's good against Eclipse Twins. It just collapsed those decks. Like, it's no problem. It's so good right now. And, like, Malice, you have a Bestial in hand, good luck finding a time to use that Bestial, because it's just like, it's never good. It's going to be bad 90% of the time. You have to pair it on like a certain combo and hope that like your other hand trap's going to do something to force them specifically into a Splash Mage line that is going to target a Malice that they already used. Like, that is so bad. That's so bad. At that point, like, it just doesn't fit the bill. Like, I just don't want it to be a Bestial, right? Like, that's what makes it so frustrating.
Cross, Dweller, Amino, and Trap card. That's not more toxic. I don't know. I always think a late game Eclipse Twins going off.
Because it's not about the M board. It's not about the M board.
A Bestial or a Bell is just 110% the most ignorant thing that can happen in a match. Whereas like Malice doesn't really have that kind of stack factor. Like, you know what they're gonna do, right? There's not a whole lot of differentials, and you know that.
Wait, you just said the logic. You know what? No, you that with that logic, you know what they're gonna do. That's what you say to the Ryziel Fiendsmith opponents that are gonna end on like Detonator, Cross Dweller, DDD, Lacrima and Graveyard, etc., etc. Somewhere along those lines, it's like a combination of those things. It never, ever, ever changes. Maybe there's a Desiree if they're insanely greedy. That's it. Whereas Malice, I have seen multiple different versions between the Terahertz version, the Abao Griffin line, the Griffin SP line that doesn't go into Abao, the ones that are like low to the ceiling that are just playing the Hearts of Cryptor, and you're literally just playing like low to the ground Malice. Like, to say that the M board doesn't like change, especially with like varying on the trap cards that they have also, I don't know. I at least in my opinion, in my experience with Malice, I have seen multiple different M boards with this deck, and the problem is hand traps. It always comes down to hand traps, and how well it plays in the hand traps, but how well it can make a half board too is also just like insanely important.
A lot of the newer combos are like a Bow Griffin, which is annoying, but like if that's going to be the new standard, I think that's fine, right? Like, I'm even putting in cards like evenly. Like, I think there's so many different things that you can do to a deck like that just don't matter. And then a Bow is also only during the main phase, and it can get Ghost Ogre.
Right,
so that's another thing where I'm
like a Bow and Griffin are both toxic cards. I think that's just like a very obvious sentiment to have. Like, there's no way that we're just going to accept that a Bow and Griffin are fine cards. In general, both those cards are insane.
Like, I don't really know if it's that broken, right? So
also, like, you have to keep in mind, Malice is strong. Like one of the biggest, strongest things about Malice is they're triggering their Malice names on their turn, then on your turn, then back on their turn. By the time it's back on their turn and you're evenlying them, they don't care because they already resolved their Malice cards 3 times each. You are so behind. It's crazy. And if they like are just dumping everything into a board, you're just playing like, that's why I think Malice is a pretty challenging deck to play. It's not an easy deck to play, but like you beat everything you beat. And if you are just dumping everything to lose to an easy match, that's on you. If you comboed and you get evenly and you lose because of it, that's straight up on you. Like, obviously you can pair evenly with other things, but like evenly by itself is not going to cook a Malice board, just like how most things will cook a Malice board. But at least if I have one Ash Blossom, I know against the Ryziel deck that they're not going to end on Cross, right? Or they shouldn't end on Cross because they have to search it off Duo Drive, right? That's a fair trade. That's a good trade. Malice doesn't have that. That's the issue.
That's one thing where I'm not saying that Malice isn't a very good deck, because it is, but like, there's a lot of other issues in the format right now to address that is not just Malice. And again, you guys already know my stance on this. Shifter is the card that needs to go. Or like that is the card that
I'm not
is the main
disagreeing with
issue.
you.
I
Shifter's
agree.
toxic and needs to go, but it's
there
just like
are
this is
more
like the
broken
fair
things in the
Shifter
format right
format
now that we have to be concerned about. I won a game on DB the other day because I had Baguska on the board. They cleared my board, and I just brought back Baguska with Eclipse Twins, and they couldn't play the game. So like, this is the problem card, in my opinion, right now. So let's tackle Maliss.
I mean, sure, like, I don't like. Yeah, Twins is an insane card, but I don't even think that example was that insane. Like, just reviving a Baguska with Twins isn't like this wild thing. Twins is also just like an insane card.
What do you find to be the problem? Now, again, people are like, well, the deck isn't playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It either gets Lancia and it can't play, or you don't Lancia the deck and it just plays and plays and plays. But like, again, we've seen decks like Goki. We during COVID saw decks like Adamantipator.
No. We are not comparing decks to Go. Like, if Goki's the comparison, it's over. Like, it's over. Like, you already, like, no. You can't make a non-Goki comparison. Goki was insane. Like, this deck is not a problem for the reasons that Goki was a problem. We also just had Emancipator. Like, this isn't the same problem. Like, you're saying, like, the reason why Goki and Emancipator were problems was because, like, not just of their ceiling, like you're using the ceiling of how insane they were, and not how well that they played through hand traps, because realistically, Goki, like, 2 hand traps, you're probably stopping Goki at the time. But, like, Emancipator, like, if they were hand trapping, like, I don't want to say, like, unoptimally, because that just makes it a bad argument, but, like, Goki, like, Emancipator could definitely have a hand where they're playing through, like, 3 hand traps, possibly. I'm saying, like, yeah, like 3 hand traps they could probably play through if they have, like, if their hand's, like, insane. Where Goki, you could probably stuff them pretty early and be fine. Things like, what's it called? Things like, stopping the Firewall Dragon, stopping the Nightmare Mermaid. There's a lot of stuff, or, you know, stopping Isolde is obviously, like, insane. So, there's a lot of, like, scenarios here that matter a lot. So, comparing Maliss to those decks is just, like, it's just, like, not a fair comparison. Like, the fairest comparison to me is Snake Eye, because, like, Snake Eye, in all realisticness, its Embor is, like, pretty low to the ceiling. Like, you're just ending on, like, IP Flamberg's Princess, right? But it's not the Embor that's the problem. The problem is you're looking at Ash, Imperm, Ogre, Ghost Spell, and, like, you go Ash, you Imperm it, and then they drop Diabell Star, and it's like, it's the same M-board, and Ash did nothing, and that's why it sucks, and there was no good solution to this problem. And that's what Maliss feels like in the main deck, because you're not going to go into an event main decking Artifact Lancia. So, like, when you have Ash, Imperm, Ogres, and stuff, like, things of that nature, if anything, Ogre's actually probably the best thing against Maliss, in my opinion, but that's a whole nother argument. But, like, the point is, if they can continue playing with the Bestials, which are also count as non-engine, like, are also count as extenders, which is insane in its own right, it's ridiculous. Like, it's so insane, because nothing changes. The board doesn't change.
We had, like, the whole Link Cross combo with Hulk. We had Infernoble that was playing with the
you're just talking about ceilings.
Like, I think that we've seen
the
way more
ceilings
impressive
isn't
boards.
the issue.
And Maliss isn't even putting up any hard negates. Like, and I think that's one thing for me where it's just, like, so impossible for me to
I don't think Snake Eye put up hard negates. Like, there was a time where, like,
it's not putting up
we could make a Baron and a Hope Harbinger and stuff, but, like, no one did it. It died pretty quickly.
Baron, right? Like, that was, by and large, everyone's biggest issue. This isn't Master Duel where Appaloosa is still legal, right?
It's a completely different
The deck
argument.
is putting up layered interruption, and I think that's, like, the healthiest thing in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it means that they have to do things to get to that end board, and accomplishing things like active.
Yeah, if you like layered interruption, you must love Fiendsmith, because Fiendsmith has interruptions out of the grave and field. But, like, I love Fiendsmith for that reason, right? Like, I think we agree on this, is that, like, we like layered interruption that isn't hard negates, because you have to choose the interruptions that you make to play around things like certain board breakers, certain pieces of engine, and it makes it more fun and exciting and interactive in the game, and your decision making really matters, rather than just making a herp derp derp, I get hand trapped, I guess I'll end on Detonator Eclipse Twins, and then your engine just can't break it. That's not fun either. I don't like turning my brain off to do that, but sadly for the event, that just happened to be the best choice, because like, it just played through things the best. If it was your day, it was your day. So in my opinion, that's like the main issue with Maliss.
Activating Gravekeeper's Inscription, saying you can't banish from the graveyards. Very good card. Summoning Chaos Hunter on your turn. Very good card. There's a lot of different things that you can do to make sure this deck doesn't go off as much as it does. If you think Shifter's the problem card, I tend to agree. The other side of the coin, when Maliss Shifter's
No one's putting Inscription against Maliss. That's just not happening.
Themselves, it's usually just Crypt or Pass. And, I mean, that's okay. I feel like you can deal with that. If it's Impulse that you're worried about...
Yeah, like, but you're saying it so plainly. Like, it's not just Crypt or Pass. it's Cryptor plus 3 draws plus a trap, probably plus 2 traps to be honest, because they're gonna have GWC, the Malice banish. Like between the Hearts of Cryptor banishing something on field, you have the White Binder banishing stuff at a graveyard, the trap banishing something on field, plus the 3 draws that they're gonna get in the combo. It adds up being a lot more than what meets the eye of the deck. That's not even including the million bishops that they're going to play and the non-engine that they're going to play, all in the same vein. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a very, like, you're like missing the nail.
That's another card in the game that we just have to deal with. It's like Purge when you're playing against Melodious or like Pure Fiendsmith, right? It's going to be there. We don't necessarily have to be like worried about that, but like it's going to be there. So I just struggle to find like the issue with the deck, right? Because I think the deck is very fair if you can't already tell.
I don't understand. Like, have you ever just played against Malice and you have an Imperm, and they go like set one, someone like summon Dormouse, and like you're just sitting there and you're like, this is the worst thing ever. That's why it's frustrating. It doesn't even matter if that is a trap or not, because the choice isn't about like the odds of it being a trap, right? It's not like really the choice. The choice is like if that's a trap or they have a Bestial in hand. This Imperm does nothing. It's a nothing card. It is complete. It trades with nothing. It doesn't do anything. Your best thing you can do is like wait for a White Rabbit. They're gonna combo fully anyway, or you hold the Imperm for your own turn, and it just, even when you do that, you're so far behind anyway. It just doesn't even matter, because I don't know about you. When I played Malice against Malice in the YCS, none of them ended on Griffin and a Bow. It was always like Cryptor, low to the ground, non-engine pile. That was like the main thing, but that's just my opinion. So like that's like the argument for me at least. Like the hand traps that are good in the format aren't good against Malice, and there's like a majority of them that are just like straight up bad, and that's like a main problem for me.
And yes, it can pop off, and yes, it can be very strong, but so can Ryzeal, and Ryzeal does it a lot more efficiently right now.
And
I guess my last question is, are the counters just not enough?
Thing.
We have Chaos Hunter, Lancia, Mawals, we have Phantasmate.
Isn't this a problem though? Like, isn't the fact that you have to play like these dog floodgate hand traps against it, isn't that the problem? Like, shouldn't that be the issue? Not that, like, because if normal hand traps stop Malice, you wouldn't, like, obviously, yes, you would probably play through Lancia still, but like I wouldn't have played like Meows and Fool and all these extra cards just for Malice. It's just so frustrating that like I have to play these to even try to like win against them, because going second against them is just miserable.
To dig for more. We have Gravekeeper's Inscription. We have Burial from a Different Dimension. We have Foolish Return. If they go GWC, you can chain Foolish Return, return the binder to the extra deck. Like, there's so many things that you can do to this deck.
Who's playing Foolish Return? What do you
They just
mean?
make sure that it doesn't play. And I feel like
you're
people...
just like also keep in mind, GWC, I'm like 90% sure doesn't target anyway, so they can still just go like a White Rabbit and get the trap regardless. So this isn't like he's just like saying things that like the arguments just don't align in like actual gameplay in my head. I don't understand it. Yeah.
People are really hating on Malice because they're so heavily focused on Ryzeal. But if you're just playing a deck like Ryzeal, your main deck is already suited enough to beat the mirror match, especially because most people are maining or siding Metaltronus or siding things like Xyz Encore. And it's really common now for Malice to play the 3 Metaltronus in the main deck because they're playing a Detonator extra deck.
Like, yeah, like obviously we're gonna, like, you saw the pie chart, like you said the pie chart, we're at 859. Like, obviously this is the pie chart. My main deck is gonna be for Ryzeal and Fiendsmith. Like, obviously, like most of this is Ryzeal, Fiendsmith. There's other Fiendsmith variants over here too, as well as Fiendsmith Malice. Like, you have to respect the Fiendsmith engine. You have to obviously respect Ryzeal, because like this and this is all Ryzeal as well. Like, so like the slots in my main deck aren't going to be that high for Malice, which makes it more frustrating. It's just like way worse. So like, again, I don't understand what you mean. Like, that's why it's frustrating.
But your side deck is usually...
Because it's not like these cards are just bad. It's they're useless. They are useless and they don't do anything.
Teched out to just beat Malice because everyone's main deck is just working to beat Ryzeal. So like, you have so many slots to just go ahead and beat this deck. So I don't know if the counters just aren't enough. If you really feel a type of way about it, you can just play Iron Wall, right?
Also, like, if you just like draw Charmies, like, you can just draw too many Charmies so quickly. Like, I drew Charmies at the worst times at the YCS, and it just like was super frustrating.
If you really wanted to.
Like, Charmies are good, but they're not like these wild things to me, at least.
Again, for me, it just is a little silly that we're still just like having this huge argument about this deck being like super unfair, because like I don't find it to be unfair in any capacity. The deck is fine. It's fun, and we're getting new support. Maybe once we get the new support, it'll be a little unfair.
Oh,
but
it's so much worse. Rise feels so much worse too, but
for now, it's fine. If you enjoyed today's video, definitely go ahead.
yeah, like I'm not. Again, like again, we just disagree, just opinions. But like the problem is interactions. Like interactions is the biggest thing to me about the Malice deck. Again, if your non-engine is just so poorly formatted against Malice deck that like game one they are cooking. They should cook you like 90% of the time, and then you literally have to sack them game 2 and 3 by drawing these insane cards, or they brick, like one or the other. That's the issue. That's the issue to me. So yeah, that's just my opinion. Like that's why I think Malice is a problem, but clearly other people don't think Malice is a problem. So I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion and my experience playing against the deck. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'm really curious. And again, this is no hate, no ill will towards GG. Like just a guy with an opinion. Clearly, most people think Malice is fair, so I'm clearly in the underpopulated here. So if anything like that. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think down below about Malice, if it's unfair, and your opinions on it. So without further ado, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.